Hey peeps, we're going to try and keep this tutorial short as well. We're just going to go over a few things. I'm going to try and keep this within the bounds of this. What I have here, we're going to talk about structuring and variables. So we already know how to make our little script file that we can put in. So we're going to be using this, and this will be what we're going to be using to run our code inside the game. Okay, so very basics structuring. Now, structuring is going to be pretty straightforward in a lot of ways. We're going to be using these brackets to indicate our structure. Okay, so here we have our opening bracket and our closing bracket. So this space out here and out here is separate from this space in here. All right, so if I do this, and I'm going to use, you can press your tab key to help with indentation. Indentation is very useful in programming. I recommend you get into a habit of doing it because knowing where things are exactly in your little tower of commands is very helpful in knowing where things are placed, if they're placed in the wrong place, how things are lined up. A lot of people like to, like put this first one, not in the same position as this. I like to keep them aligned, to each their own, I suppose. But these brackets are going to be very, very important because we're going to be using them a lot. It's important to remember that this left bracket is going to be the opening and this right bracket will be the closing. So if I put two left brackets, that means it has this one here and this one here, but it doesn't have a closing bracket for this, which is going to confuse everything. It's not going to understand what's going on, and your code's going to send out errors and everything's going to screw up. So that's going to be very important for what we're going to be doing. Very first thing we're going to talk about is our integer. Some people call it an int32. Next is going to be a float. A float value is going to be a floating point number, which is going to be like a decimal value. Like I could have 1.5, 1.6. Whoops, those are not numbers. 1.7, 1.3, blah, 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 or not 0.3, but whatever. So, and the next one is going to be our string. Now we talked about strings. Strings are going to be enclosed in double quotes. We have our opening quote here. In my previous example I did, we had, I don't remember what we even had, hello, how are you, or something like that, like this. In this example, you saw in the previous video that it only showed this part, it didn't show these. These are the opening and the closing. The first one it runs, it says, okay, this is going to be our string value, and then goes until it reaches this and is like, that's the end. This is our string. This is what we're putting in. All right. So to explain this a little bit on why we need this, instead of hello world, what if we had this, right? This was our thing that we wanted to print into the console, print L. Now print L, you can see that it's the same as this. This is code right here. And without these double quotes, this thinks that this is code right here. And we want this to not be code because then that's it's not going to print the print L into the console. It's going to try and run print L, and it's going to get really confused. So very important. Remember our double quotes for strings. Make sure that we have the opening and the closing. If we forgot this, for instance, then this would just keep going on and on and on to the next line as well. So if I had another print L here, then this would go do 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 do, and then down to here do 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 do, and then if I had the double quote here for this one, it would think all of this was a string. So it's very important that you have the opening and the closing for your double quotes for your string. Okay, so let's see. Let's do a little bit of basic variables and show what things do. Now, a lot of different languages, they have like different casts and stuff. Like you'll see here we have int and float and string. Well, in vscripts we don't use any of that casting. We use the same variable for pretty much everything. So I'm going to do local, and local is basically what we want to put when we're telling it we want to create a variable locally to this scope, which is a scope is basically like this area here, right in between here. So if I had something in here, this would be the scope inside of here. So it doesn't actually show in here because it's outside of this script, but outside of this file there's another uh, set of brackets here. So this is called a block, and it's basically saying that all of this is in this region of this .NET file sort of deal. Well, not in this .NET file, but in the same scope region that we've added this .NET files code into. So we're going to do local, and I'm just going to call this boop, and that's going to be our variable name. So we're creating locally in this area variable boop and an equal sign. The equal sign means that we're going to be setting the value on the right to the value on the left. So I'm going to set 1. So now we have a variable called boop that we've just created, and we're setting its value to 1. So we can use that later, and we can actually use that right now. So I can use this printl command, and instead of putting that those double quotes, I can just put boop here, and this is going to print a 1 to the console. This isn't a string value, this is a numerical value 1. And it's converted to a string value and put into our printl command here. So I'm going to go ahead and run this really quick. I'm just going to leave this open. And I got rid of portal, didn't I? I did. Oh well. Okay. I typed it in wrong. Okay, so you can see here that this is what we printed in. So we got a 1 value here. So now, with our code, we can also do next on our list, which is a float. So in the same way that we created our integer, we can create our float. So I could call this, I guess, boop2 or something like that, and we'll do 1.5. Now this is going to put this value of boop to 1.5. So I'm going to create another printl, which is our function that tells us to print to the console, and boop2. So this is going to print the value of boop, and then it's going to print the value of boop2. So it should, if it just worked properly and I didn't mess this up somehow, it's going to print 1 and then 1.5. As you can see, 1, 1.5. So now we have those two. Now, same thing. I'll just create boop3. This is a new one, and I'm going to create this and put hello, I like cookies. And we'll put a smiley face. He's happy. Okay, and then we'll do printl boop3. All right, go ahead and save that. And go in here and run it again. And now you see we have 1, 1.5, and hello, I like cookies. Yes, you do. Okay, so that's very basics of structuring and our variables. Now we're going to be using the local variable a lot. There's another type of variable we'll be going over, which is a bit more complex. It took me a while when I first started vscripts to understand the difference between these two variable types. But once you do, it makes things a lot easier. So hopefully we'll be going over that next, and we will try our best to do it in a way that I can explain it clearly to you guys. And that's going to be it for this. We're trying to keep these short, so we'll go ahead and end it here, and go on to the next one when we're ready. All right, peeps. Eyes out.